Hey, good morning, everybody. This is your daily devotion for Thursday, April 16th. I had to stop and remember what day it is. Pastor Kristin Rice from All Saints Lutheran Church in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, I was reading yesterday, so I read from the Daily Lectionary, and I was reading yesterday from Exodus chapter 12. And in this passage, God is setting up the Israelites with instructions for the Passover. And what's interesting about this passage, of course, we just had Passover. Our Jewish friends just were celebrating Passover last week. And what's interesting about this is that God takes the time to lay out the entire celebration of Passover and what that's supposed to look like in great detail before the Israelites even leave Egypt. And so this is what it says in chapter 12, verse 40. The time that the Israelites had lived in Egypt was 430 years. 430 years. At the end of 430 years, on that very day, all the companies of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. That was for the Lord a night of vigil, to bring them out of the land of Egypt. That same night is a vigil to be kept for the Lord by all the Israelites throughout their generations. And then he goes on to describe in more detail about how some specifics about how people are to keep this ritual and how they're to incorporate others who join their community, foreigners who join their community into this ritual. And he says the whole congregation of Israel shall celebrate it, right? And then in verse 50 it says, all the Israelites did just as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron. That very day, the Lord brought the Israelites out of the land of Egypt, company by company. It's striking to me that God spent the time detailing that ritual of remembrance before the people experienced their exodus. God knows human nature, right? And he knows that once that ordeal had passed, even as long as it lasted, that people would be seeking their new normal, and that they might just forget, and time will tell that they certainly would, about the importance of God's activity in that time and what they learned from it. And so before they're delivered, they establish the ritual for remembering their deliverance. So what strikes me about that in relationship to our current situation is that now talk is beginning of what will it look like post-quarantine? What will it look like to open things up again? And I'm wondering, what kind of vigil do we need? What kind of ritual might we need to help us remember what we have learned during this time? And perhaps right now is the time when we need to establish those things. Perhaps right now is the time when we need to think about, okay, what is it about that I have learned during this time of quarantine that I want to carry into my life afterwards? What do I need to remember about God's activity here and now and what God has done for me? What do I need? What have I learned about my spirit and my spiritual life and the practices that sustain me? I know I've heard from some people, I'm more involved with church now than I was when church was open. What does that tell you about yourself and about what you need and about what sustains you and what's important? What about our relationship to our bodies and the rhythms of our bodies? What have we learned about sleep and exercise and fresh air and what we eat? What things have we learned about that and about what sustains us? What have we learned about the importance of solitude and the importance of human connection and how we sustain relationships in a real way, and what those relationships need to thrive? Some of us are drowning in solitude right now. We're so done with solitude. Some of us are looking forward to the day when we can go to the bathroom without somebody screaming and pounding on the door outside. Speaking for a friend. What do we need to remember and ingrain in our memories about the importance of solitude and connection and the rhythm of those things in our lives? Sorry, there's an airplane. What do we need to remember and learn about our relationship with money? What do we need from the store? Like really, what do we need from the store? And what do we not need from the store? And what do we need to save? And what do we need to spend? What have we learned, and what do we need to remember about our relationship with creation? We all know, but sometimes forget, that we're facing a crisis on that front that no vaccine is going to fix for us. But we've also learned that people can change their behavior on a large scale in order to mitigate the effects of a crisis. What are the behaviors that we need to change, that we've learned we can change? So if we were to think about April 16th as a vigil, if we were to set this aside, and I think we have the authority to do this, to set this aside as Quarantine Remembrance Day, what are the things looking back a year from now that we want to be able to say, this is what we've learned is important about life as a human being and a child of God in this world, that we want to carry forward? This is what we've learned, and this is what we need to remember, and this is what we will pass on to the generations that come after us. There are some things about this quarantine, I know, I relate to you. There are some things that make me want to tear my hair out, and I can't wait till they're over. But I watched it today since I knew I would be on TV, so that would be a waste. But there are also things, I think, that are important, and that I need to be mindful of. And that I don't want to change. And I know that even if the opening of our economy and our commerce and all of that is slow and gradual, there will be tremendous pressure for us to go right back to the patterns we had before, about what those patterns are. And we get to choose. So I want to encourage you to spend some time in prayer today and make note, write down, or draw a picture of those things that you want to be part of your vigil of remembrance, as we think about what God has taught us during this strange time, and what we want to carry forward with us. Go ahead and share some of them in the comments. I see several of you are watching now, and I'm grateful to see all of you. Fruit and veggies, yes, thank you, Owen. But there are others, so let's share some of those, and that way we can perhaps hold each other accountable just a bit. But be thinking about that over the next few weeks as well. I love you all. I miss you all, but I'm grateful for this opportunity to connect, and I feel your prayers, and I'm thankful for each of you, and the opportunity we have to remain as community. So God bless you as we're keeping vigil together, and I hope to see you soon. Love you all. Bye-bye.